What's going on, world? Welcome to another edition of Insightful Principles. This is episode 43, and I'm excited to get this one started. I actually have another special guest on the show, J Richardson, and I was able to connect with this guy on social media, was able to really learn more about him and all of the positive things that he's doing with his brand, Jungle Rose. And we're really going to dive deep into, just his fashion line. We're also going to go into just investing and also real estate because I know that's another area that he's working on as well. So I did want to say welcome, Jay. I appreciate you coming on the show, man. How's it going?
Brother, I can't complain, man. I'm blessed. Wow, blessed beyond measure, brother. I just spoke with some guys of mine, friends of mine, just having some chance to connect with some brothers, and it's so crazy how everybody across, even the U.S., not to mention the world, are experiencing such different situations, and
Mhm.
and to be here and to be in good health and to not be homeless or
Mm.
have a sense of income or way to earn income. I feel really blessed, man. So I take that at full stride. That meeting, I take it at full stride. So I am blessed. I can't.
I mean, you speaking truth, man. I say the same thing. Like, to be alive, to have a roof over your head, to have, an income, like you said, it's definitely a blessing because we live in a time now with so much uncertainty. 2020 was a very unique year. And even though we're in a new year now, there's still a lot of people going, through struggles. And, it's
Absolutely.
truly, you really have to approach life with gratitude and realize that you do have to be thankful for the things that you do have because it could be a lot worse. And I think sometimes we don't really appreciate how good we exactly have it. So just hearing that from you is just is nothing but the truth. Now, to get things started here, can you kind of talk on a little about yourself and just your background for those that may be listening for the first time?
Yeah, man. Absolutely. So, in short, wow. Where do I start? I'm from South Bend, Indiana, born and raised, Midwest boy. I've experienced all seasons, you know what I'm saying? So I know for y'all down there in that Dallas, when that snow came, you know what I'm saying? Folks was freaking out down there, man. I'm like, that's like for us up on Midwest and the East Coast, but hope everybody's, no joke aside, all jokes aside, hope everybody else is down there is safe and, you know what I'm saying, doing better with that little blizzard situation that came through there. But yeah, born and raised in the Midwest, went to IU, a branch of IU, and then went on to work at a bank and now for a solar development company here in the Midwest, doing some things there. But kind of skating. That's my professional career, right? So kind of skating back and pulling back and going back to college, where kind of like my the branding of Jordan started. I grew up, you know, bottom bottom of bottom of the middle class, top of the lower class type situation. Like, what I'm saying, I would say majority, if not a small majority of African Americans grow up in this country, and so that's nothing new there. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't deserve a sucker, or I'm not about to get some big accolade for that, or for where I am now from where I came. Um, what I realized in growing up in that environment was that life was a jungle, and I started to realize that from an early age, but I didn't really conceive it. I didn't really understand what it meant. The name Jungle Rose, as you mentioned, my clothing brand Jungle Rose Cartel, actually is a really interesting story, and I do mean interesting, because Jungle Rose is a life brand,
Mhm.
and what it stems from is that one day I was walking outside of my college, man, and you're talking to a kid at 16 that was so, oh, you're not going to graduate, all these things, negative thoughts that were fed to me. I remember my G. I never forget it. I met with that counselor. She said, "You're not going to graduate." Something happened in my mind, flipped the switch, and I went on to get straight A's the next year. So now here I am in college, studying business, finance particularly. And there was a guy in our town, man. He was a Lexus dealer. He had the biggest Lexus dealer within 150 miles. And he would always let it be known he was an African American dude. And I'll never forget, he was giving a presentation at our school, and he told me to stand up. It's like, stand up. He said, yeah, and he knew me. He said, stand up. I was like, man. It just so happened that that day I was clean. You know what I'm saying? Suit. Uh, Towards my junior senior year, I wore a suit jacket every day, and even if it was like if I dressed it down with a pair of Air Force One fitted jeans and a button up, you know what I'm saying? That was, but I made sure I was in a blazer every day. This day I happened to be in a full suit. He made me stand up and he said, "Hey, look at him. He knows how to brand himself. He knows how to stand out." And that moment when he called me out like that, I remember walking outside after that meeting and being like, "Man, that was a crazy happening. How he picked on me for such an interesting reason." And as I was walking past these bed of flowers, I saw a group of white flowers, no color pun intended, and I
Mhm.
saw one red flower in the middle. And at that moment, I thought to myself, I was like, man, being a black business student in the U.S. where everybody's trying to get degrees, if you want to succeed in this realm of business, then you have to be able to learn how to stand out, and you have to be proud of the fact that you stand out. And so,
Mhm.
me dressing different and me having fashion was not because necessarily I was so into fashion. It's just that I believed in looking different. I just wanted to look different and be different. And I wanted to brand myself different than anybody. It just so happened I developed this life for clothing in doing that, right? So it was kind of like which came first, the chicken or the egg. This kind of like they both came at the same time, and I ended up having this desire to brand myself, and then also this desire for clothing. And so what happened is that I came up with a slogan: if you life is a jungle, and if you're gonna make it, you got to be strong.
Mhm.
And roses grow in the jungle. And so that's kind of how the brand was started. And thus you have Jungle Rose Cartel, Jungle Rose, and then Cartel for, I just wanted to make it sound, kind of savage. So I chose Cartel. And to this day, when somebody hears the name, they always say, man, what does that mean? And it starts this conversation over and over. And so as people buy the clothes, they're buying into that belief that life is a jungle and you relate with it, you understand it. So you're in it, you're engulfed in it. And that's kind of what we've rendered ourselves on, to this day. It's just standing out and being different. So a lot of the stuff that you see on our Instagram, we took a slight pause during COVID, but a lot of the stuff you see on that page, or customers that have supported us over the years know what it means to be different. You know what I'm saying? They know where to come to get it. So yeah.
Yeah, man, I think it's powerful. Like you said, being a black man, and not many of us, have college degrees. I know for myself, I'm born and raised in the Midwest as well. I went to Bowling Green State University in Ohio. I actually went with Coy. I
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. CB.
We spent a lot of time with each other while he was there, and I stayed the whole 4 years. But I'm from Michigan, so I
Okay.
definitely know how it is coming from different areas in Michigan that weren't the best developed, and really starting in the jungle from a standpoint of working hard and really trying to make a name for myself. And I think that, like you said, for you to be able to study finance and business in college, I know it really gave you an understanding of the business world and just really how being able to brand yourself. And you did mention Jungle Rose. Now, I've told you this before. Like, I really think that the name is a very it really speaks to exactly the mindset that a lot of us as black men should have. I think that you saying that a rose growing out of the jungle, you know what I'm saying, or just being able to develop and become something greater in the midst of challenges or adversity. I look at a jungle as that standpoint as well.
Yeah,
Uh,
man.
I really wanted to touch on, like, what was the steps of you like creating your fashion line? Like, how did you first get started? What was that
Man.
process like?
Well, the first thing was that I believed in what I was doing.
Hmm.
So it's like I remember a guy told me one time, he said, if you ever want to start a business, just solve a problem. And that's
Yep.
how Jungle Rose really started. The problem was that I was a broke college kid that really liked fashion, and I needed to learn. I needed fresh gear. And
Hmm.
ironically, my first business partner reminded me of how I got started. Is that I made my tie for my graduation, and that's what birthed Jungle Rose. I made a bow tie.
Mm.
I literally stitched it together. I think at one point it was tape in this mud. It was hot glue. I mean, it was everything. But from the outside, there was this really sharp suit in this tie. I remember people asking me like, "Man, like, where did you get this tie? And I felt like from a real early grind in the business that I understood like how to make textiles look good,
Hmm.
like a very visual person. Like no, so I wasn't making like even in my early stage, I was making pre-tie ties and people didn't know they were pre-tied. You know what I'm saying? Like they looked like somebody look, you know, tied and you know what I mean until we
Yeah.
graduated into that. So I saw the need. I had a need of ties. I wanted to wear a bow tie every. I wanted to wear a different bow tie every day, and probably for 4 weeks, I made a different tie every day, and I was like, yeah, there it is, right there. There's a business. And I had developed such a brand of like that bow tie guy that by the time I started selling it, people was like, oh, that makes sense. I'll buy one because you know how to rock it and you look good in it. And it was just like common sense. And I branded, being different. And so they were crazy colors and crazy patterns and to the nines and a lapel pin and and a handkerchief. And, you know what I'm saying? Like all this different just sauce, like levels of sauce. You know what I mean? It's to like
Yeah.
people were like, yeah, that makes sense that you would do that. Like I want to buy
Yeah.
that from you because you that guy.
Yep.
So yeah, it's kind of like I solved my own problem and then it just kind of generated income.
Yeah. Now, I really wanted to get into like the designs. I think that with the brand with Jungle Rose, I like how it's not just on like shirts and hats. Like you got, like you mentioned it, that the handkerchiefs. You even have the specific hats, like the dapper hats that you will wear, like if you're going to like an event, a fashion show. I've seen it on pouches as well. Can you talk about how you were able to diversify, with not having it on just a traditional like a hat or a shirt? You really
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
really looked at multiple
So,
areas.
oh wait, like I'm so excited. I'm sorry to interrupt you before you
You
finish
good?
your question.
Oh, you good?
Uh, Honestly, man. So something that a lot of people don't know. I'm actually here in Indy to watch and give somebody pointers on this, but I love dance. I love to dance, specifically salsa, bachata, and kizomba. When I first after college, I got really big into dance, and so you had these two things happening. I was loving fashion, and I was loving dance.
Mm-hmm.
Because of that, when you people go out to party and dance, they want to look good, and
Mm-hmm.
so I started like catching eyes like on the dance floor for being just fresh as hell. Like I'm supposed to
Hmm.
smell like
Oh, you good?
fresh, you know what I'm saying? Like fresh.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
in a blazer, and this guy dancing in a blazer and dope shoes and your fitted wear and your jewelry and kind of like
yeah.
okay. So I started noticing other people were doing this too.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't too long where I had a chance to set up a booth at a dance festival.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest is history. Like, like I was already selling, bow ties before then. But once I combined those passions, once the passions combine, that's when you just seen stuff take off. And honestly, like, as I look at every entrepreneur that's been extremely successful, it's always an overlapping of desires and passions
Uh-huh.
that produces like because it's like you're living it every day. You
Mm-hmm.
take a real estate developer, they just tired of like seeing people from our community ran down living in places that don't look good.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Under extremely undervalued or valued properties. You want to change that.
Mm-hmm.
And because you live it, you know how to change it. You know the inner workings of it. You know what that person feels when they come home to ugly walls and messy, like just outdated bath. Like you know what I'm saying? I know how I feel, like you. But when I go into a place, coming from that and being able to look into a place with, granite countertops and nice floors, I feel different. You know what I'm saying? I feel good. So it's like I know how to change. We know how to change these situations because we've been through them. And so yeah, I mean that's kind of how the bow tie, the fashion brand started. It was just that like not only okay, so I went from wearing bow ties to like I was wearing a blazer, but then I got super casual and I got super streetwear. So then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna put this on like baseball caps, like the brand. Then I went to like I was like, I just need something to wear every day, so I went and got a t-shirt. Then I was like, man, I just need some workout wear. So then I got a sweatsuit. And then I was like, man, I just need something to hold my stuff. So then I made a fanny pack. And then I went back to being like really fly at festivals. So then I made a hat. And then I found a guy that was a brand ambassador that really loved my hats. So I was like, oh, I'll put these hats on you and I'll let you sell them. So then he started selling my hats for me almost. You know what I'm saying? And
Mm-hmm.
before you know it, my passion of dance had intermingled so closely with dance to where people thought I was a a dance fashion brand. Like I only sold to bachata salsa dancers,
Hmm.
but it wasn't the truth. I had people buying, trying to buy stuff from me from Europe. I mean, like the UK, because that's where my dance reach was. That's where my ambassadors were. But I was in the US,
I
and
see
so
what you're
again, just
saying.
a combination of passions and just things overlapping in that way, and just supplying a good product.
Yeah, I think that a lot of the topics here that you're hitting on for entrepreneurs and business owners that's listening is when you're trying to start a business, you want to solve a problem. That's the number one thing, but you also want to do something you thoroughly enjoy, because that's what keeps you going in the midst of challenges or difficulties because you're going to have those points in your business. And I really like how you talked on how you combine these passions when it came to dance and how there were really problems that you were just solving for yourself. You seen the need in the market and you were able to develop products to be able to provide to other people. But I didn't want to go past the one thing you mentioned with the brand ambassador, because I think that that's important. As you're building a business, looking at ways of I look at it as partnerships, as a way where you can bring someone on that can help you be able to brand your products even more. So can you kind of speak on, how you've been able to expand Jungle Rolls and having brand ambassadors and other areas that you're probably doing to expand your brand and your message of what you're doing?
I found someone who genuinely believes in the product,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where the beginning of the branding happened. I
Mm-hmm.
gave him something. I gave this guy, to this day, me and this guy are friends. You know what I'm saying? The pandemic has probably stopped our conversations, but we actually got pretty close to the point. Like he was running these festivals, and I was getting free tickets into the festivals. I was getting like invited to like the private party. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, you come
Yeah.
up to the room. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mm-hmm.
all based on like the relationship. And what I like to think about this is that like don't think about it as brand ambassador. Think
Yeah.
about it as relationship building, man. Like
Yeah.
I'm a developer by nature, right? I truly am. I really believe that at heart. Like I am a people person that knows how to put people in the same or things in the same way with people, and they start like going. You know what I'm saying? They start vibrating at the same. So like what I found is that like the more that I could identify and work with people and give people what they needed, the more value that I would bring to them and or to that company or business. So
Mm-hmm.
with this specific individual, he had a passion for fashion. Like he had a passion for fashion, and it just so happened that I was willing to be his supply.
Yep.
But he wasn't a use me guy. He was also a businessman. So he was like, man, I could take this and I could do and I could. So he was believing in the brand more than the product. And then that's where the true ambassador came out. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? Where he was like, ah man, like, thank you, man. He was grateful for stuff that and he had money. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't. I mean, he had people giving him stuff all the time, but it was just something of how I feel like I answered his. I was able to fulfill his need. You know what I'm saying? And like once his need was met, he was like, "I go to war for you." You know what I mean? Like, and that's what I feel like a brand ambassador is when you first starting out. It's just finding that one person that's willing to stand by your brand and build with your brand and believe in you as a person. And right now, I'm doing the same thing with real estate to kind of pivot a little bit.
Yeah.
Like I had a guy, I was looking at a property and a guy came in, a friend of mine, but he was more of a business mentor, and he was willing to up basically front the deal.
Mm.
And I was like, at first it shocked me, but then I had to come back to it. It was like, no, 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 you just fulfilled his need with a proposal, and so now he's willing to invest in you to see you go further because as you go further, you add value to him. And so that's kind of where I was like, okay, this is all happening again. So a brand ambassador, finding partners, the same thing. Like how can you get in front of people that want what you want, that you can bring value, and you sell them on that. And that's what a partner is. That's what a real partner is. Mutual value. It's not one way.
Yeah, it is mutual value. I think that in anything in business, whether you're building your own brand, and specifically like what you said with real estate, it's about building those relationships and being able to provide value and receive the value back as well. And I did
Word.
want to pivot into the real estate because I realized that there's so many ways to be able to build wealth, but I think that when it comes to wealth, there's really like three pillars. You have building your own business, being a business owner, investing in the stock market, and real estate. And I really wanted to get your experiences in real estate and what you have learned and how you have been able to develop those, relationships to be able to build the real estate portfolio for yourself.
You used you used to hear back in the day like about seven streams of income.
Yep.
In the world where we live right now, it's about like 100. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for
Like
sure.
75, like
Yeah.
a crazy number. So it's like it's more than real estate. It's more than stocks. It's more than
Yep.
having a business. But like I guess these are three sectors that you are like three categories. But in those
Yeah.
three categories, you got multiple streams of income that you can tap. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So I look at it from a real estate perspective and what I've been able to do with real estate. It's just kind of on a perspective of like number one, living for free.
Mm-hmm. That's smart.
I was talking to CB the other day,
Mm-hmm.
and I was telling him that I said, "Man, do you realize that your biggest expense that you go to work and live every day for is something that's due every month on the first?"
Mm.
Pause and think about that.
It's crazy.
Wow. So your big like what you go to and spend and transition your what you go and exchange your time for every day for 40 hours a week, sometimes 60, 70 hours a week, is going 40% of that, 30% of that is going to something that's due every month. If
Well,
you can cut that out of your life
mm. Game
and
changer.
use yourself as leverage to provide a home for somebody else, you know how low that costs. I think about like sometimes I think about like how the image of what we have in the US as a home and what life is so weird, man. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's such like we got on goggles, man. We just like cruising. You know what I mean? Like how in the
Mm-hmm.
world do you how in the world do you go out and get 100,000, 120,000 worth of debt in a home and then work 80 hours, 60 hours just to barely try to live in that home? Let me give you a better example. This is what I mean by we got goggles on. I was talking to my nephew in Atlanta a couple of weeks ago, and he said, Jordan, at 20, what would you do if you could go back? And I said, you know what I would do, man? I would stop being so ignorant. And this is what I mean. I graduated college making 30. I started making $35,000 a year at a bank in a banking program. You know what the first thing I went and did after I moved out and graduated college? Guess. What
Bought a new
major
car.
debt did I take on?
Was it a new car?
I bought a new car. Guess
I
how
did the
much the
same.
car was? Guess how much the car was?
I mean, I did the same thing. I'm gonna just guess. Mine was 30,000. What was yours? Like 30?
20. Mine was 20. 20, right? Do the math. I'm making 30,000 a year, and I just took out a 5-year amortized loan for $20,000 with 30% of my $35,000, if not more, going to rent.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you have the capacity to take on? But you want a new car, then you gotta have this, and then you gotta sauce at the mall, then you gotta look, and it's like, yo, man, like wow, you know what I'm saying? Like, just take a minute and breathe and realize how, like, I don't know what it is, like, whether we're consumed, like, a nation, a people of consumption, or we've been duped into being consumers, is what I really believe. But we stopped thinking. And if I could go back, I told him, I said, nephew, I would be thinking as an investor.
Yep.
You know, you invested all these years in college and all this money, but can you honestly get out and leverage that education to make money? Or do you really need like a skill set to leverage that money? Because everybody knows that a degree alone will not get you a good job. You know what gets you a good job is job experience gets you the great job. And the ability to solve problems gets you a great job. And then it goes to your ability to manage people that gets you even better jobs. And then your ability to manage teams of people gets you even better jobs. And then you know what I'm saying? But it's constantly that mindset of investing. And so like I told him, I said, look, don't be like me and go out and try to get a crib or a single family home when you
Mm-hmm.
graduate or a brand new car when you get some money. I said, no. You got this all backwards. I gave CB this nugget. I said, bro, do you realize that an FHA loan
FHA.
Rates are as low as that they've ever been. You can go get an FHA loan for a 4 unit property,
Yep.
3% down,
Yeah.
$200,000. It's a nice spot. It's a nice quad. Okay, that's a
Mm-hmm.
nice quad in some areas, depending on where you live. Put
Mm-hmm.
that 3% down, 3.5% down. You living in one unit, three other people paying they portion of the mortgage. You look up, you ain't got no mortgage. I ain't paid a mortgage in 5 years.
Mm.
You know what I'm
Hey.
saying? So it's just this idea of like, why do we have this idea of like, oh, this white picket fence, and I gotta have my own, I gotta have my own. It's like, no, 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 no. What all I did was I leveraged the idea. All I did is I leveraged the idea of me taking on debt, and I was a service. I was something for someone else, and I was
Mm-hmm.
able to leverage my ability or that risk that I took on to live a much freer lifestyle. So even that, like even with the car situation, like man, like if I could do it all over again. Luckily, my car got totaled.
Oh.
It got totaled. That brand new car that I bought got totaled.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I really love that car, but it was a blessing in disguise because it got totaled. They paid me some money for it after what it was worth. It really wasn't worth nothing. But I went out and I bought cars
Mm-hmm.
cash because everyone knows that like your assets, like cars are the worst assets you can buy unless they're collectible items, and even at that, they're really not worth
Depreciating
much
assets.
because they depreciate. They're the fastest depreciating asset on the planet Earth. This iPhone, you know what I'm saying? Now, this iPhone has a better depreciative value than a car does. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, it's like we just got to restructure how we live our lives, and a lot of that starts with the mentality. And I know this may be just going a little bit deeper than the original question you asked, but when it comes to investing in the real estate, that's the angle or that's the mentality that I'm going after it with is that like I've been taught wrong. I've been schooled wrong. And it's
Mm-hmm.
time for me to wake up and relearn and reschool myself as to what success is, as to what assets are. These
Mm-hmm.
are not assets. I mean, you know what I'm saying? These are assets, gold, silver, you know what I mean? But like
Yep.
it's time to reassess what we think, how we invest. And real estate is just one area that I'm planning to do that in.
Yeah, what you speaking on is powerful, man. Like, because I know for myself, like, coming out of college, I wasn't, I didn't make the wisest decisions, in my early. I mean, I'm still doing, I'm still, doing better now, a lot better now, because I've been able to expose myself to more information. But when I first came out of college, bro, I did exactly the same thing, adding more liabilities. Like I said, going out to buy a car, feeling like you need to have all of these other accessories, whether it's clothes, shoes, and you realize that what I'm doing is working backwards. I'm not really efficient
Right.
where I'm leveraging myself where I can be able to acquire more assets. Like, why am I not using my education to really leverage more assets? I'm just buying liabilities. So I think that when you speak on that, that's very powerful. And I think that a lot of things what stops us from building wealth is the debt that we have. And like you said, if you're able to cut your largest expense with your rent to zero to half, it's allowing you to leverage more where you're able to buy more assets. You're able to take the extra income that you will be spending on your rent to pay off your debt. And I think like what you said, man, with the FHA loan, it's essentially house hacking. You're living in the home, but then you have other people paying for your rent. And I think in that situation, a lot of people won't humble themselves and say, you know what, instead of me getting a single family home, I'm gonna buy a 4 unit. I'm gonna live on one side and I'm gonna rent the other units out. And I think, man,
But
it's crazy.
peep game. I talked to my brother in Dallas, right? We got a family meeting every Saturday. Which, by the way, if your family, the mentality of that family that you can't build with family is a lie. Just I just want to say that while I open this next sentence. But I
Yeah.
meet with my family. We got a meeting every Saturday. I'm telling this to my brother. It's six of us. You know what I'm saying? We talking. We going around. We sharing knowledge. I said, do y'all realize that like home values? He goes, yeah, yeah. He is rough. He said, man, my house is worth $100,000 more than it was when I bought it 3 years ago. He goes, well, this is a single family home. I said, you know what I would do if I were you? Because you still paying a mortgage on that property that's not worth $100,000, but you ain't got no value. You don't got that $100,000 in your pocket, do you? You ain't got no asset to represent that $100,000 difference. I told him I would sell that house, go buy a house on the edge of the not the hood, but kind of like not the greatest area. I would go buy me a big multi-unit property. Let's call it 4 units. I would knock the walls out of the top 2 units, make me a big pad up there, have a room for my kid. You know, I'm talking about a big spot. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Knock the walls out of the, or not knock the walls out, but have an entry point to where I got a whole floor to myself.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm living. Now I just switched to a income producing asset
Mm-hmm.
that because I put value into it, now it's going to praise. So now I'm able to represent the appraisal value and take advantage of the rental income and live for free. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, how many people are willing to do that,
Mm.
knowing that that could be the situation? No, that's a fact. People do it all the time. But are you humble enough to walk away from this like, oh, picket fence and I got my own? No. Because you think of it as a downgrade, but it's because you got your blinders on and you don't really realize what true freedom is,
Yes.
in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, bruh, it's. I think that the society that we live in is so consumption based that we have been programmed ever since we were a child on, not really buying assets. You know what I'm saying? Even in college, I mean, they're essentially teaching you to be an employee. They're not really teaching you. I took business classes, but they really teaching you really
Woo!
those financial, whether it's finance accounting, you're learning how to do that for another business owner. You're not really, you can take those skill sets and apply it to your own business, but they're not really teaching you. School isn't designed for you to
But that's
learn how to
not,
be.
because school is a business within itself. I was telling somebody
Yeah.
this the other day. It's like universities are a business within themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They help service a market that I'm tapping into, which is the student renter population.
Mm-hmm.
That's a market of real estate within itself. But that's
Yep.
only available because of the business of higher education. But it's kind of like, okay, I was talking to a old head the other day, and she said, man, you know these kids got it so backwards. I said, what you mean? She said, man, kids still trying to go to school in the middle of a pandemic.
I know, bro.
I said, what
Man,
you
and
mean?
and
She
the
said, they still
schools
trying to
getting
go to
so
school in the
much
middle of a
money.
pandemic.
The school's getting so much money off of
She said, she said, unless y'all going to school for a specialization, a nurse, a doctor, biological science, tech, where the world obviously needs, and it's been this way for a long time. Like, man, you going to school, and no disrespect. First of all, let me just put this disclaimer out there. I'm not disrespecting anybody's personal pursuits or whatever. I'm just telling you how the system looks at it, not how you look at it. I'm talking about how the system looks at it. You going to school for a general business degree? What is that teaching you? That you're going to be able to leverage that you can't go out and learn by being a manager. But you're going to invest 4 years of your life, time and money to get a general business degree. Man, look at the skills of what a business degree actually means. You ever thought about it that way? You ever thought unpack that and understands what it means to have a degree and what it really shows? It really shows consistency. It really shows your ability to problem solve. It really shows your ability to, you know what I mean? Like the skills that it takes you to get a degree. So why don't you realize and unpack the degree and say, oh, these were the skills that were needed. So if you don't want to go to school, that ain't a bad thing. And don't let nobody tell you that. You can still be successful because you may just learn how to think for yourself. You know what I mean? So it's a scenario where like I'm looking at cats still going to school in the middle of the pandemic, and I'm like, kudos to y'all that are chasing the medical fields or whatever. But at the same time, I'm like, don't feel like that this is the only route. And I feel like we've been unfortunately conditioned to think that way instead
Mm-hmm.
of learning how to think. Like you said, I got a finance degree, and I didn't even know how to. There was, I mean, there how to balance a checkbook. I mean, yeah, you took a class on it, but have you ever done it? Have ever had to do it? No,
Yeah.
you didn't do that in business school. You know what I'm saying? I
Mhm.
learned how to trade in stocks, but was I an active stock trader? Like, if you were in a stock trading club, but most of us, you know what I'm saying? We were told we have this ambition to go to school because we were told to go to school.
Mhm.
So you never leave school thinking like I'm about to get on the grind, about to put this business finance degree together to start a hedge fund within my community, within my family, because I know how to run a hedge. I know the background of a hedge fund, and the rest of it I don't know. I'm going to go get a job so then I can turn around and use that job as leverage to then bring that over here and run my own thing.
Yep.
We never were
Yep.
taught that.
Yeah, we
Never, never,
weren't, man.
never.
No, we weren't, man. And I think that we have been conditioned to think that college is the only route to be successful, and I really don't think that is the case. When you see a lot of entrepreneurs that were high school dropouts that didn't necessarily go to college route, and I don't knock anyone from deciding that is the route they want
Absolutely,
to go
man.
down.
Higher
Because
education is a blessing.
it is a blessing, and I'm thoroughly happy with the education I received. But I think that when you are going to college, have a plan and understand that you want to leverage those skill sets so you can be able to build something on your own, or have the aspirations of just really creating more assets. Because in this day and age, like you mentioned at the beginning of the episode, seven streams of income isn't enough. You need to have, like you said, probably almost 100. And it don't necessarily mean you got to have 100 different businesses, but like those three main sectors that we briefly mentioned, you want to make sure that there's multiple streams of income in that one specific area, whichever one you decide to focus on. So I mean, it's definitely the truth, man, of everything that we're speaking on. And I kind of wanted to get your viewpoint with investing. I know you're a stock investor, myself included. What kind of made you want to get into investing in the stock market?
Man, this ain't a pro black, saying necessarily podcast, but this is a pro life podcast. So I'm gonna give you my
Hmm.
perspective of what brought me into trading and into the stock market.
Hmm.
I looked at this is a personal opinion. So if there's anybody on here that's like, hey man, I don't disagree with you. Hey, this is my opinion. Hit me up afterwards. We can chop it up or meet me outside. Uh, I look. So during the pandemic, I was in Canada. I was there for some time with my girlfriend. My girlfriend's Canadian. I was basically there with her during the pandemic, and I came back. I left. I actually was on vacation there in March, and then the borders ended up closing while I was there, so I had to figure that out. You know what I'm saying? I ended up staying there for 6 months.
Mm.
During that time, a lot of things was going on. You had a pandemic. You had Black Lives, like the whole the killing of George Floyd. You had the Black Lives Matter movement. You had the election comes in, and it was just a lot of. Meanwhile, the pandemic is happening, so then you got the stock market totally crashing.
Hmm.
And you got a lot of people sitting at home with nothing to do, stressed out, emotionally, just going through the motions. And I had a conversation with a guy, very wealthy gentleman. I mean, got it. You know what I mean? Just through what I do for work. Again, I'm a huge relationship guy, so I got relationships all over the place, and not just in the top, also at the bottom, in the middle, doctors, lawyers. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm a people person. This specific guy, older white gentleman, called me one day and said, "How you doing?" I said, "I'm good." So obviously, I don't feel too, what I'm saying, good about what's going on in the U.S. right now. What do you mean? What do you mean? What do I mean? Well, I mean, so long story short, he gives me this story about how he knew was a black kid. This black kid grew up from nothing, went all the way to the top, doing really well for himself. And he asked me if the system was so messed up, how did he make it? And I was really offended by that. You know what I mean? Deep inside. And I was like, all right, man, whatever. It's all good, whatever. Oh, we need to finish this conversation sometime. Later. I got to run. I said, yeah, for sure. He said, there's one thing I want to tell you, though, before I get off the phone. I said, what's that? He goes, I love you. He goes, I love you. And I also want to tell you that this whole thing is about economics. And he hung up the phone. I took my ass to the to the next room. I was offended, telling my girlfriend, "And this guy," and I was right to be. I was okay to be offended. You know what I'm saying, by what he had said. I think that's okay. But something in me was like, but something he said was kind of the truth. So
Mm-hmm.
I just like it hit me in such a way where I was like, I gotta like, what does he mean economics? What does he mean this is about economics? How dare he say that, white privilege dude?
Mm-hmm.
I started digging through history, man. Like, I mean, BC. You know what I mean? Like, and as you go back in history, so much of colonialism, so many wars, so many creations of nations were stemmed around economic power.
Mm-hmm.
Money. It was the access to capital. And usually, where there's a lack of access to capital, there's manipulation.
Mm-hmm.
And it's at that point, it kind of hit me, and I was like, man, wow. And all that on top of the fact that African Americans, I feel, were the first assets of the United States.
Oh,
We were the
yeah.
original assets of the United States. We were slaves. We were assets. We were traded on the market.
On the market. Yep.
Dot, dot, dot. So, with that being the case, I'm like, oh, wait, this is kind of ironic because I don't know anything about what's going on in the stock market right now. It's crashing. And here I am, the original asset, and I don't know anything about this market. I'm like, oh, this ain't cool. And then it started to click to me to how I was like, wow, this ignorance of economics is really a source of, I feel, the problem. And
Mm-hmm.
not just, I mean, we could tie it to the stock market, but I'm talking about from a global, not just the U.S. I'm talking about a global thing. The ability to gain economics is a problem. And so, like, that's really what caused me to say, hold up, man, I got to get in this. I got to find and figure this out. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, man, I invested. I invested some time in classes, and I dove into it. I put some money on the line. I caught Kodak when Donald Trump, you know what I'm saying, made that crazy news about Kodak. I caught that on the way up. Got him. But just started learning how manipulative the market is and how it preys off of people, off people's ignorance.
Yo.
You know what I mean? And that's really what got me into it. And once I understood that the market was just a snapshot of people's confidence or their belief in something, man, it amazes me to this day. And
Yeah.
honestly, I had a teacher, Chris Cole. He said that like you trade every day. You trade every day, but you just not trading the things that fluctuate highly. You trade your time for money, and you get an exchange.
Mm.
Like you trade your energy for your light bill, you get an
Mm.
exchange. But like you sitting here and not having access to this greater market where billions are made. This the stock market was created for wealth preservation. Wealth preservation. If you ain't got no wealth, then there's no wonder why you're not in the stock market. Ding ding ding. So
Mm-hmm.
there you have it. You got the erosion of the dollar, inflation happening 3% every year. People saying,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, the stock market only averaging 8%." That's more than your check. That's more than your savings account is.
Yeah.
So I mean, this is a serious game. You know what I'm saying? So for us not to be tuned in is so detrimental because we already behind. So
Mm-hmm.
that's like, in short, man. That's what like I was like, I can't take it. I gotta get in. I gotta understand. So I'm
You
no,
got
I'm nowhere near. I'm nowhere near a master. I'm nowhere near like a professional trader, but it
yeah.
has definitely opened my eyes to the deficiency in in my knowledge of the topic, and I want more.
Man, you speaking nothing but facts. I think that what you said about how we were the first assets, before right when the stock market started, as slaves they were being traded on a market, and that's a whole nother conversation in
It's
itself.
deep. That's a whole
It's
nother
deep when you
conversation.
really it's deep when you really think about that, and also there's a lot of prisons that are being traded currently now on the market, and a majority of our population is in the whether it's Hispanics, blacks, Indians. a majority of those populations are in the prison system. So they're still in the sense. I mean, they're still. I look at prison as another form of slavery because it's a lot of people on there that are having to work for free labor. Like they're getting 10 cents on the dollar. They're not getting anything to work, and they're having to do certain things. So I think that even though it may not be slavery now, it's still in some form of fashion.
It's
They're still
legalized illegal
legalized.
slavery.
Exactly. It's still blacks being traded on the stock market when you think about it. So it's like how that guy had explained to you, like, what are you trading? Like you're trading something every day, whether it's you're trading time for money with your job. You gotta look at ways of how I love I read the Cash Flow Quadrant by Robert Kiyosaki, and he talks
Ooh.
about how you want to be on the B and the I side. You want to own a system as a business owner, and then he said you want to be an investor where you own investments. That's how you want to trade your time. You don't want to be an employee, and you don't want to be self-employed because it keeps you in a system where you're kind of on a hamster wheel. You're not, like you said at the beginning, like the people that really elevate is the ones that can manage people, manage time. They're controlling. They're controlling. They have their own system, but it's like
They're managing assets.
assets.
Like
Yep, they're
you
managing that.
managing assets so that
Yep.
by the any given chance that I get sick today, my assets still working for me.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Like for example, the other day, like I play in a market on Nadex, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
I traded futures.
Yep.
I made a trade in 15 minutes, made $300. Like
Mm.
that's I use my finger. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mhm.
my finger got to work out for the day. You know what I mean? But
It was
at
your
the end of the
mind.
day, I leverage this and I leverage knowledge. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not leveraging my body. I'm not leveraging a whole bunch of my time. It's
Mhm.
more so I'm leveraging the asset of knowledge. You know what I'm saying? Instead of physical things. You know what I'm saying? I'm leveraging the knowledge of how to manipulate things. So yeah, man,
Yeah.
that's spot on, man. That's this kind of
Man,
that topic on that conversation can go real deep,
it's
man.
deep.
Like real
I,
deep, because
I
it starts to make you want to unpack everything. Like ever since like I said that last year, I'm only a year in, man. I know people been in the game for a long time, but like I cannot spend money right now, man. Like I can't
bro,
spend money on stuff that don't make sense.
they don't make sense. That's how I feel, man. My
I
struggle is
can't.
same.
Like I feel so bad going out to eat right now. I'm like I can't even do it. Like
Yep.
I'm eating one times a day on that level because I'm like, man, I just
Mm.
what's food? Like what's that? You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
what? Like come on, man. Like
Yeah.
I'm like coffee. You won't be able to day out straight. Maybe a smoothie. I'm out straight. I don't want to, man. Like even the drinking thing. Like I put down drinking for 40
That's
days
really
coming
good.
into just a month and a half ago. I was with a family member that we had something to celebrate, so I had a little something last night. But
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? It's just been a
It's
situation where I'm like, man, I can't like I'm allergic to spending money or spending money on things that don't generate more money. If alcohol
money.
generated me more money, I'd be cashing out on that money. But it ain't.
Exactly.
So so it ain't. It's wasting
Yeah.
my time, you know what I'm saying?
You're
So
right. It's like you. I feel like when it comes to whatever, if it's alcohol, smoking, that's not producing any income for yourself. Yeah, you're gonna have a little.
and
You'll
nor
have
is
a high.
Netflix.
Yeah,
Don't I
exactly.
mean nor is Netflix. So don't get it twisted. It ain't even just that. It's like
It's more. It's
any
other stuff.
area in your life
Like, yep.
this not producing, it's what is it for? You know what I'm saying? Now there's nothing wrong with entertainment. Don't get me wrong. I'm not one of these guys gonna go. I'm not gonna go on a tangent on that. But
Yeah,
for the most part, like you have to realize that most of the things that we've been sold for entertainment ain't really entertainment. They're distractions.
distractions,
That's what it is. It's a distraction.
distractions, man.
You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
man,
I
yeah, it's definitely powerful. I mean, everything that we speaking on throughout this episode, man. I'm sure a lot of people gonna get value out of it because, like, I think that the perspective has to change, to being an investor and really building, generational wealth for yourself and your family. Everyone definitely connect with Jay on his platforms. Check out his Jungle Rolls cartel line. It's a great fashion line. I definitely would recommend everyone out there to check it out. And also, Be on the lookout for his property company that he's working on as well. As far as insightful principles, if you all continue to like, subscribe, and share this video, I'll greatly appreciate it. Rate, leave a review on the podcast. That also would be great as well. And also, if you all can support my Patreon page, where I create exclusive content in the areas of investing, business, and finance. You can definitely connect with me on there, and I'll put my link tree in the show notes, and you'll be able to find more information about my brand as well. And I did want to tell you, Jay, man, thank you so much, bro, for coming on the show. It was a pleasure, intellectual conversation, and hopefully we can do this again sometime soon in the future.